got your Mackinac guys here on Birds 365. We are joined by Easy Ed Kracz from Sports Illustrated, jumping in with us on a Friday. Good to see Eddie here. Here's why I want to start today, Ed. Are you headed to Dallas?
I am not. No.
You're staying home too. All right, good. Then we're going to have to judge ourselves by the television, because I have gotten into debates on the radio, sometimes with the guys here on the stream, about the Eagles fans traveling to the game. They are, no, everyone please pay close attention. They are as good as, if not the best, traveling fan base.
Jody's going to rip you. I feel it.
That's perfectly fine. But sometimes they overstate how much they've taken over a stadium. They'll say 90-10 Eagles fans. Come on, stop it. Just don't even go there. They may make it sound like it's 90-10, but the only place where they've even gotten close to having the other side of 50% was Washington this year. And I talked to two people who, at the Giant game, I asked, no connections, just objective observers, right down the middle, not a Giant fan, not an Eagle fan. And they said it was a solid 75-25 Giant fans over Eagle fans. Eagle fans, again, telling me, we had more than half the stadium. No, you didn't. But you make it sound like that, which is credit to the Giant fans. How many Eagle fans are going to be in Dallas for this game, Ed Kracz?
Maybe 100. No, I don't know. You're probably right about that. It's overestimated, the number of Eagles fans, but they are loud, and they do the
very loud,
and that makes them sound even louder because they all know it by heart, right? The Eagles chant, not that difficult, but I would say, there'll be maybe. It's tough to take over Dallas. I mean, they've got a good fan base. It's such a huge stadium that.
Well, that helps because it's so many tickets available that the Eagles fans come. But yeah, you can't take over that place.
And it's
on Christmas Eve.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, it's
people got to stay home.
Yeah, people with young kids aren't taking.
I know two guys who are staying home named Kracz and McMullen, as a matter of fact, who are almost always.
Well, those decisions are made at the corporate level for me, Jody.
Understood. Yes.
For Ed.
I had the good fortune of being able to make my own decision on that, and it was a no-brainer to me.
Like me going to the Jet game last night decisions made at the corporate level as well. My wife influenced me, and my daughter said, "You idiots should not leave the house." So we listened.
Yeah,
wise decision. Wise decision.
Yeah, 3 points, boy. But no, the Eagles fans will be there. I don't even know if you'll hear them, to be honest, because I think it's going to be a very small number of fans that will be parked at Jerry World on Saturday afternoon.
The Palace, Jerry's Palace, just outside of Dallas. I'd like to be very specific. It is.
Been there many times. Been there many, many times.
Beautiful, beautiful stadium. And that's the only thing I'm going to miss. They've canceled, I read, 4,000 flights across the country because of the weather all over the country. But this is going to be a disaster travel weekend. So I hope everybody's okay. For the Eagles, Jalen Hurts is traveling to the game, but he's not going to play in the game, Ed Kracz. And Jody and I were talking about, were you a little surprised because of how the Eagles have been all season, that they pulled the plug on the competitive advantage nonsense, and Nick Sirianni confirmed Gardner Minshew? And earlier in the week, I was a little surprised they activated Dallas Goedert. They usually wait till the last minute when they do those things.
Yeah.
It seems like they abandoned it this week. Any thought behind that and why?
I think it's just a no-brainer, especially playing Jalen Hurts, or rather Gardner Minshew, on Saturday. I mean, why continue with the charade? Everybody was saying Minshew should start and give Jalen Hurts the rest because, the Eagles pretty much have everything in hand here. So that was kind of a no-brainer. But, yeah, it was surprising. And then putting Goddard on the roster on Wednesday, I guess it was, or Tuesday. My days of the weeks are all missed. Day of the week is
I still don't know what day it is.
I know it feels like a Saturday or I don't know. But Goddard was added early too. Usually they wait until the last minute, which is 4:00 the day before kickoff, 4 p.m. And they did it early. I don't know. I thought maybe that might be a clue that Minshew was playing because those two, have some good chemistry between each other. They got a lot of reps the week leading up to Chicago with Minshew on the scout team and Goddard running scout team tight end. So I don't know. Maybe it's a clue that Minshew was going to play, but whatever their decision or reasoning was behind the decision doesn't really matter. We know now, and we can prepare for Minshew and Goddard probably having a big game together would be my prediction.
I would think that's a big part of the game plan. Yeah.
Minshew stepped in, played very well against a poor Jets defense last year, but did the job and asked the coach when he could be the starting quarterback. The coach just smiled at him. When Jalen gets hurt again, which is a year later, and now that's the case. They were singing his praises yesterday. Works hard. He's ready. He's been getting all the preps in and the like. I believe all of that. I think Gardner Minshew is a competitor. How does he match up with this Dallas defense? Because here's my problem, Ed. I don't know what this Dallas defense is. They'd been vulnerable to the run all year long and much better against the pass, good pass rush, Diggs on the outside. And then all of a sudden, the last couple of weeks, specifically last week, they just got abused in the secondary with Anthony Brown out. What's the best way for the Eagles to attack this Dallas defense with Gardner Minshew at the helm?
Well, I think they're going to try to throw the ball. The cornerback opposite Trayvon Diggs is injured, right? Anthony Brown is hurt.
Yep.
I think
they've really struggled without Anthony Brown, which is surprising.
Yeah. Now maybe as the weeks go by, he gets a little better. That he gets coached up, so to speak. But I think they'll try to attack Dallas in the pass game, and I think they'll run Miles Sanders. I mean, Miles Sanders had the most rushes of his career against the Jets when Minshew played last year. He had 24 carries in that game. And then the following week against Washington, when Hurts came back, Sanders had another 18 carries. So, there's been talk this week about getting Miles more involved. He had 11 carries against the Bears. This is a guy that's over 1,100 yards, 11 touchdowns, and he had 11 carries. Didn't touch the ball until midway through the second quarter. That's completely unacceptable if you're game planning against any opponent. So I think they're going to try to get Miles involved as well. And I think they're probably going to look for Dallas over the middle on some nice, easy throws, maybe get him involved in the tight end screens. We never saw that since he went out. We didn't see anything to Stoll or Calcaterra from a tight end screen perspective. That was a huge play that they used several times in a game. So I think we're going to see some of that, but I don't think they're going to ignore Smith and Brown on the outside either. I think they're going to try to get them the ball, and they may try to take some deep shots. I don't know how strong Minshew's arm is to get the ball deep, but I think they'll take some deep shots as well. But I think their main plan of attack will try to get the ball to Goddard, and they're going to use Sanders in the run game.
Do you think the coaches are I don't want to say excited, but interested to see how they can get away from the RPO zone read game a little bit and run more of a conventional offense with Gardner Minshew and get more of these aspects involved? Because you mentioned the Miles Sanders stuff. Look, this week you just run inside zone. With Jalen on the field, he's so good, they feel the necessity to run zone read, and then it's up to the defender whether Jalen's going to get the football, keep the football, or Miles is going to get the football. This week, it's a little bit easier for the coaching staff to get Miles Sanders involved.
Well, you would think so, yeah. I mean, even, maybe Boston Scott and Kenny Gainwell, throw them into the mix as well. But, yeah, I would think that you're going to take a lot of the RPO stuff out. The offense is going to look different. I could still see, once they start getting that run game going on the, the inside zones or the outside tosses, that you could see the RPO then come into play where maybe Minshew will take off and sweep the outside once or twice. But he's not going to be Jalen Hurts on the ground. No way. It's just not the way he plays. But listen, this is a talented team the Eagles have here. I think it was Chris Sims who said, look, if you put Gardner Minshew in, they're not going to skip a beat.
Yeah, Chris, a big week for Chris Sims.
Yeah. So now we'll see, because on one hand, he's right. This is a very talented team that the Eagles have. Obviously, look at the Pro Bowl. I mean,
it's insane on offense.
We've been watching the Pro Bowl all season long, really, and we never knew.
Yeah.
So, it's not just Minshew. Obviously, the quarterback's a big piece of this, but you have a defense that has 15 picks, right, which I think still leads in the NFL. They haven't had one in a while, but they've been piling up these sacks. So quarterbacks are holding the ball a little bit longer, waiting for something to open, and the pass rush is getting home. 55 sacks. So, you're bringing in one of the top defenses in the league, and you have A.J. Brown, one of the top receivers in the league. You have Devonta Smith, who's 99 yards away from becoming the second Eagles receiver to go over 1,000 yards. I mean, this is a well-rounded, very well-balanced team that's going to Dallas. It's not just Gardner Minshew, and a wing and a prayer. I mean, this is a good team that's around them.
Let me ask you about that sack group the Eagles have. Number one in the National Football League, passed the Cowboys 2 weeks ago, and now have opened up a lead for the most sacks. They've been great at getting the quarterback 2 weeks running. How does that work against the Cowboys? They've got the Smith bookend tackles, move Tyron out to the right side because they like what Tyler Smith has done filling in for Tyron when he was hurt at the left tackle, so they just want to leave him there. So a veteran guy, but playing out of position, and we may even see a little Jason Peters giving him a playoff every once in a while, which they don't usually do on the offensive line, but John McMullen said that's exactly what they did last week. Is this the kind of offensive line, and is Dak Prescott the kind of quarterback where the Eagles can get 5 or 6 sacks again this week?
Well, nobody's slowed them down these last few weeks. And Dak Prescott, I mean, he's got some mobility, but he's going to probably be in the pocket. He's going to try to get the ball out quickly. But yeah, I think the Eagles can get home. We saw Jason Peters, you mentioned him, play some guard when they came to Philadelphia a while ago. That was an abject failure. I mean, he was terrible at guard. So maybe he gets thrown in as a tackle for some snaps, but I don't know. But I think the Eagles can get home. I mean, Hassan Reddick, 12 sacks. He's been 27 pressures the last few weeks. I mean, he's really upped his game. First time Pro Bowler. On the other side, Josh Sweat's he's hunting 10 sacks. He's got 9.5. He's trying to get to the double digits like Reddick and Javon Hargrave. So, the Eagles pass rush can beat you inside and outside, and they're just hard to stop no matter, I think, who is playing on that offensive line. I think they will get home. And Gannon's doing some different things, too, with them. He's doing more twists and stunts and, giving them better opportunities to get home. So, yeah, I think the Eagles can still generate pressure on Dak Prescott and sack Dak Prescott. I could see them going for maybe 3, 4, or 5 in this game. Yeah, I don't see that line slowing them down any.
By the way, speaking of the pass rush, do you guys know no team in NFL history has ever had 4 guys with 10 sacks?
Yeah.
The Eagles already have 2. Josh Sweat has 9.5. Brandon Graham has 8.5. So they are on the cusp of doing something no team in the history of the NFL has ever done. And they generally get the pass rush done with 4. It's been an amazing turnaround from last year where they were 30th, but second to last in the league to Detroit in sacks. And it's interesting. This Javon Hargrave, I was talking to Javon about this. He thinks he played just as well last year. So I looked it up. Their pressure percentage was 24% last year. This year it's 24.6. That's the difference. But they're getting sacks because Hassan Reddick finishes, and his impact on everybody else, I think, has been dramatic. When I talk about defensive MVP, I said it was TJ. I'm starting to lean towards Hassan Reddick now. His impact on the entire defensive line.
Well, you look at when the sacks come, they have 55. 30 of those have come on third down, which is tops in the league. Hassan Reddick's got 9 of those, 9 of his 12 sacks on third down. Javon Hargrave has 6 of his 10 on third down. They're the 2 top well, they're in the top 5.
Top
Reddick
5.
leads the
Reddick's
NFL
number 1. Yeah.
in third down sacks. Yeah. Hargrave, I think, is 4th or 5th. It's people have asked me what my biggest surprise of the season has been so far. And, you take Jalen Hurts out of the equation because we didn't know, obviously, that, Hurts would be playing at an MVP level. We had hoped that maybe he would elevate his game from his first year as a starter. But to be playing at the level he was playing at, to me, is a huge surprise. But you take that out of the equation, and my answer is the sacks, the pressure that they have put on him. And that's an interesting stat, that the sack pressure, the pressure on a quarterback is similar to last year, but the sacks alone, I mean, yeah, you brought in Hassan Reddick and you thought, okay, he's sacked. He's been to double-digit sacks 2 of the last 2 years. Can he make it a third? That's a tough thing to do, but he did it. And then I didn't think Brandon Graham would come back from that Achilles injury.
Yeah, Brandon's big too, but they missed him last year. Yeah,
comeback player of the year, in my opinion, has to be. I mean, coming back from a torn Achilles at 33 or 34 and putting up 8.5 sacks. And, listen, Brandon's been in this town for 12 years. He's never had double-digit sacks. So it would be nice to see him get to that milestone of 10 sacks. And we'll see. He's got 3 games really to do it. Maybe not even that. If the Eagles clinch, everything on Saturday by beating the Cowboys, we'll see what they do as far as
that's a good point. He might not get the opportunity unless he gets it done against Jason Peters. How cool would that be if he gets 10 against Jason Peters?
That'd be a great storyline. Yeah. But and the fact that they have 4 guys that are, kind of knocking on the door, or 2 more knocking on the door to get to double digits to become the first team to have 4 double-digit sackers is really, to me, that's just a huge surprise. I never saw that coming in my wildest dreams when this season started.
All right, a little bit of prediction on the matchups again. And John and I were talking about earlier that both offensive coordinators will probably believe in themselves coming in. Oh, we'll dictate terms. They'll have to react to us. It's always a give and take. It's a chess game between coordinators, which is the inside football stuff that is very fun. Let me ask you about the inside football decision by the Cowboys. Last week, they used CeeDee Lamb in the slot a lot. Put him in against Jacksonville in the slot to try and keep him from not going against the corner who made 2 big picks last week. And CD had another good game. He is not only their number 1 target, for me, he's borderline only target, at least out of receivers. The tight ends are okay. If they do that a lot, will Jonathan Gannon just go, no, listen, we play the defense we play. We play zone, we play corners. We're going to stick with what we do. Or will he react and maybe play it a little bit differently if Dallas tries to dictate terms by playing CeeDee Lamb in the slot?
Well, if the Cowboys come out and CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott are beating the Eagles defense over the head by playing him in the slot and they're completing passes and he's running free, then yeah, he better react. He better figure out a way to stop it, or they're just going to do what Shane Steichen does on offense with the Eagles. If a team's not stopping it, I'm just going to keep running it. So yeah, he better adapt and better adjust if CeeDee Lamb comes out and plays a lot of slot, and if Avonte Maddox can't match up with him one-on-one, or if they bring a safety down to help, they better find a way to squeeze that off, or the Cowboys are going to keep running it and they'll kill him with it.
Yeah, I mean, typically the Eagles, occasionally they let Slay travel with a big receiver, but just outside the numbers. He never plays in the slot. Now, one of the reasons why is because the Eagles have so much confidence in Avonte Maddox. He's such a good slot corner. Their thought process is he's their best player in the slot. So if he's not getting it done, well, somebody else isn't going to get it done. Now, to me, that would be a more interesting question if Avonte was out, like he was out for a number of weeks, and then you have Josiah Scott in there. That, to me, would be a more interesting question. But Avonte's so good. We talk about the talent level on this team. He's a top 5 slot corner in this league. If you put an outside corner inside, you're probably affecting 2 positions. So I wouldn't personally have a problem with Gannon. Sometimes you have a great player, you tip your hat. I think the Cowboys, from the Cowboys' perspective, they don't have the complementary receiver, which is why they're trying to find T.Y. Hilton and something, try to get Odell Beckham off as what to come in and try to help them. They don't have the complementary receiver to take advantage and manipulate you. Maybe the tight end, maybe Dalton Schultz is the better.
Yeah,
their second best receiver.
Yeah, but listen, Gannon did a good job taking Justin Jefferson out of the game, and that was the game plan. Take their best player out of the game, and that's, I would think, going to be a similar approach against Dallas, is take their best player, CeeDee Lamb, out of the game.
Do we know who the official is?
Yeah,
because Jody and I were talking about it. They were letting him play that
I think
day.
it's the guy
Alex Kemp, I think
who let the Goddard face mask get away.
Yeah,
yes.
I would not. I don't think. I hate to bring up officials. Jody knows that. I can't stand it. But they were letting Slay, way back I talked to, they were letting him play that day, and he was able to get very physical. I joked he could have had 4 interceptions in that game. He also could have had 4 pass interferences in that game. That's how they were letting him play. Usually, and certainly on the road, you're probably not going to be able to get that physical with a receiver with the caliber of CeeDee Lamb. But that's, you got to see how the officials are calling the game.
I like a let it play attitude from an official.
So do I. Oh, so do I.
Let them play. I mean, unless it's really egregious, like that face mask, which happened in the wide open, and somehow none of Alex Kemp and his minions or blind mice, whatever you want to call them, all that, which was amazing. That should have been a penalty for sure. But I like that let him play approach. We saw that in Chicago too. They weren't calling anything. We saw Jalen Johnson, the Bears DB, and AJ Brown going at it downfield. A lot of hand fighting, a lot of physicality, and they didn't call anything. And I like that. Let those guys work through it, man. Let them get a rhythm and a feel for what they can do and can't do, and may the better man win. And I hope that's the approach that Kemp and his boys take, Saturday in Dallas.
Eddie, how much does emotion play in this game on Sunday? We know Eagle Nation gets jacked up every time they take on the Cowboys, their main rival. They've already beaten them once this year, but they had the backup quarterback in. Now the Eagles have the backup quarterback in. We know it's at stake that Dallas has to win if they want to save the small possibility that they could still take this division. Put it all together and come up with an emotional quotient. How emotional do you think the Eagles play this game? How emotional do you think the Cowboys play this game?
Well, just by having Gardner Minshew in there, I mean, he's an emotional wear the sleeve, his emotion on the sleeve type of guy. So he jacks up that quotient a little bit. But it's so interesting. That's the way this is the Eagles played Cooper Rush in the first meeting because Dak was on the bench, and now here we are round 2, and the Eagles starters on the bench with Minshew in, and I think there probably will be a round 3 at some point in the playoffs, and I think we'll see both quarterbacks at full strength, and we'll see really then who the better team was because, let's face it, a backup quarterback, you're not expected to win. This Eagles line started, I think, at -1, Dallas was favored by a point, and now it's grown to 5 after Hurts was ruled out.
Yeah,
so
I'm surprised that's not a bigger story. I've been that the gamblers got the Hurts injury information before anybody else. That to me should be a big story, but it's not.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, listen, I think it's going to be an emotional game. It's interesting to see how much the Eagles will show in this game because they know there's a really good shot they could play them a third time in Philadelphia, probably for winner move on, loser go home scenario. So it's going to be interesting to see how much they show this Dallas team here in Dallas, because let's face it, this is a bigger game for the Cowboys than it is the Eagles. Yeah, the Eagles would like to wrap this thing up, but they have the luxury of 3 games, win 1. Cowboys have to win out. Minnesota has to win out. So this game, it had all the trappings of this great matchup, weeks ago. Everybody's looking to this great game, and it's going to break records with the ratings and this and that. It just doesn't have that same appeal, at least from a Philadelphia standpoint, because Dallas needs this game, and they've been struggling, and they need to find a way put those struggles behind them and win. But the Eagles aren't going to go out there and roll over either. I'm not saying that. I think it's going to be emotional. I think they're going to fight. I think there's going to be pushing. There's going to be shoving. And, I think the emotional quotient will be ramped up because of that and because of Gardner Minshew, who's very, very emotional when he plays this game.
Right.
Yeah.
But here's my Minshew point. You mentioned, how do the Eagles handle it? Do they not want to show too much? I think they let Gardner Minshew take care of that, because John continues to tell us they're an RPO-based team. That's what they are. They're a Jalen Hurts-based team. Well, they have to be something other than a Jalen Hurts-based team this week, because Jalen ain't playing.
Right.
So Gardner, you have to come up with a game plan that works for Gardner Minshew, that helps you win the game, and that should take care of itself as far as hiding or disguising anything for a potential third matchup between these two teams.
Yeah.
Great point. That's a great point. Yeah, for sure. And we saw Dallas struggle with the RPO game, trying to defend that. They weren't really quite locked in on how to do it. We saw Micah Parsons a few times just kind of frozen in space, not knowing whether to attack Hurts when he got on the edge or go back out in coverage to cover Brown. And it made for easy completions to Brown because Parsons had no clue what he was doing. And, they're not going to do that this week. Let's face it, Hurts isn't there. So you're right. That's going to be an issue that Dallas is going to have to solve if they meet in round 3 in the playoffs, is figuring out how to stop the RPO. They should have no ability to do that.
Yeah. I asked, Nick said earlier in the year, week 6, when they were playing the Cowboys the first time, when he was talking about Mikey, he said, if he can't block him, read him, and they put him in conflict, as you mentioned, with the RPO, the zone read game. And he looked like Clay Matthews in the playoffs against Colin Kaepernick. He looked like a top. He didn't know what to do. This week, they got to block him. They can't read him. You can do it every once in a while, and maybe Gardner takes it for 3-4 yards. But, if anybody can block him, it's the Eagles with Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata. So that, to me, is going to be one of the most interesting matchups of this game. But this time they have to block him. They can't read him, so they have to block him.
And we know the Eagles can block, right? That whole offensive line is on the Pro Bowl. You got 2 guys starting, or we're not starting, but
3 guys. 3 guys making the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, and then the 2 alternates, right? Siamalu and Mailata are both alternate. I mean, the whole offensive line. So they can block. So advantage Eagles.
Yeah, 100% for Jeff Stoutland University.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And Stoutland University will have a big say in who wins this game on Saturday. The question is, what does Ed Kracz say? I need you on the record there, big guy. Minshew at the helm.
Right. It is game day.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. We are just 30 some odd hours away from kickoff. You need to tell us how you think it's going to play between Eagles and Cowboys.
Well, it's tempting to pick the Eagles because I think Minshew is really going to be jacked for this game. And like I said, they have a good team around him. I think Minshew is going to try to win one for his former coach, Mike Leach. He went down to earlier this week. He went to eulogize Mike Leach at his services. So I think Minshew is going to be pretty fired up for this game. But I think Dallas will find a way to kind of put some of these struggles behind them. They're jacked up for this game. They know they have to win this game, and they know they need to beat the backup quarterback. That's probably how they're looking at it, and I think they will. I think the Cowboys will win this game. And it'll be interesting because now the Eagles will have lost 2 games this year, and both were with Alex Kemp as the official.
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, but I think the Cowboys will probably find a way to win this game somewhere like 27-20, somewhere in that line. I think they do beat them by a touchdown and cover whatever the spread is.
It's interesting. I didn't think of that. So Micah Parsons was the, enemy number 1 in Philadelphia for his disrespect of the Eagles, but coming out of the game, it might be Alex Kemp.
Jalen Hurts. He didn't disrespect. He hyped the Eagles. He disrespected Jalen Hurts.
Yeah. Interesting. Alex Kemp, enemy number 1 now.
Could very well be, depending on how the flags fly. Eddie K, thank you very much for doing Football Friday with us. Since you are not getting on a big old jet plane going to Dallas, smart move. Enjoy the holiday after either an Eagle win or an Eagle loss.
And happy Festivus, Ed. Air those grievances. SI.com/NFL/Eagles.
All right. Thanks, guys. Happy holidays, everybody.
Thanks,
That's Ed Kracz from Sports Illustrated here with Birds 365. All right, he's on the record. he's picking a Dallas win. Again, it doesn't mean that the Eagles are going to fall apart. They still are going to win one of their last 3 games and capture home field advantage throughout, but everyone wants it, or I should say most people want it. Almost everyone wants it done this weekend against Dallas. Nothing better than locking it up against your number 1 rival. He's John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. Birds 365, rocking and rolling on. We're going to have Kevin Kincaid from Crossing Broad. KK's always good whenever he hops on. 2 good Philly guys, Ed Kracz and Kevin Kincaid. A couple of K's coming your way. He'll join us in about 20 some odd minutes here on Birds 365.